This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
This is Everything Elite, presented by MyBookie, the world's best podcast devoted exclusively to all elite wrestling and the elite extended universe. I'm Aaron Bentley. I'm joined, I think we're getting close to evening this out, by my good friend, Nate, a.k.a. Epitasis. What's up, Nate?
Hello, Aaron. Hello. Real EE podheads out there in the Codyverse listening to the podcast. What's up? Been playing a lot of Captain Tsubasa. I teased that last week and was anxious to get off the pod here and go play it. Delivers big time. So hearty recommendation from me if you're looking for a insane anime, soccer, visual novel / arcade game.
How do you feel about Tsubasa the wrestler?
Tsubasa the wrestler? Yeah. Which promotion is Tsubasa the wrestler in?
You're going to find your Tsubasa largely in Oz Academy, your Pure J, your those kind of places.
These are these are two underground and something Joshi promotions for me to be familiar with.
That's true. I mean, did you watch the recent Katano Milky Way Pro Wrestling event?
No.
Okay.
Sounds delicious.
I mean, to be fair, you would have only seen her in Oz Academy if you were watching several years ago. But
when you first said, what are your thoughts on Tsubasa the wrestler? I was like, is that one of the relatives of Andreza the Giant Panda? Is that who?
That would have been sick. I wish I would have said that. No. Tsubasa hangs out in Oz Academy, Pure J, pretty much the places I said. Why did I doubt myself there? That's right. That's where she is. But you're not familiar with her.
No.
Well, she's 44, so you got plenty of footage to go back and watch anytime.
I'm well known to do is go back and watch old footage. Classic Nate thing.
We all know Nate's just going to load up whatever Pure J service is and just scroll back to 2011 after the show and watch all of Tsubasa's.
That was a great year for Pure J. I know that much. So
it was.
You see, when AB brought up Tsubasa, I was thinking there's another wrestler in Japan named Tsubasa, and he's mainly an Osaka Pro guy who does Big Japan and has done some Toryumon and Dragon Gate. So like that's who I was thinking of when you brought up Tsubasa. So
I can't believe Mike thought of the person who's been in Toryumon and Dragon Gate when we came up with a Japanese name.
I know Big Stunner.
Folks, if you're wondering who that voice is, the man talking about Dragon Gate and Toryumon, it's Mike Spears. What's up, Mike?
To be fair, this Tsubasa has appeared in Reina and JWP, so there could be some crossovers of the Tsubasa cross Tsubasa. Speaking of Tsubasa, I got a major question for you, Nate. Do you see that Captain Tsubasa is going to be a burgeoning esport? That's all I care. That's all I care about is, does it have good net code? Like, are we expecting this to really start developing on the internet now?
I think the PC version, I think, is pretty buggy so far, including the net code. But as far as I know, the PS4 version is, totally functional. A lot of the game is doing this weird campaign visual novel thing where you take your custom player and sort of handcraft them into a certain type of player based on your play and your decisions, and then using that to put him into your dream team and then taking the dream team online. So it could really be an extremely complex esport. If you have to all the professional Tsubasa players out there have to go through the entire middle school league in Japanese middle school soccer in order to perfectly craft their weak side striker to have the correct finishing move or whatever.
Sounds difficult.
As we were discussing this, I was just thinking, what kind of people do you think listen to the show?
I don't know. Nobody. I mostly use it as an avenue to talk about whatever strikes me as amusing in the moment and whatever I'm enjoying. Get very little, we do get some good feedback in the Discord, but almost no input whatsoever on any of my particular interests that I bring to the show, like these weird anime tangents.
Yeah, there's got to be people out there who are like, fuck yeah, Captain Tsubasa.
Yeah, it's mostly for me and Kara. As a lot of tweets are just for me and Kara, really.
Sure. Well, if you want to read more about Nate's thoughts on Captain Tsubasa, you can follow us first at Everything AEW on Twitter. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. Subscribe to the podcast, please. You can, if you use the Apple Podcast app, give us a rating, give us a review, 5 stars only. And if you want to support the show, you can do so by going to patreon.com/everythingelite. On the show tonight, it's the go home show. It's our go home show, baby. It's we're going to talk about Dynamite from last night, or Wednesday night rather. We're going to talk about the ratings. We're going to talk about All Out, of course, coming up on Saturday, and we're going to play Elite or Delete, which we're going to start with right now, which I should have just paused so that Mike could do the drop instead of now I got to do it again. Now we're going to play Elite or Delete.
Delete! Elite! Delete! Elite! Delete! Elite! Elite! Delete! Elite! Delete! Stop! Delete!
All right, Nate. Here's the thing about the show last night. Not that good. So I'm interested to hear what your favorite thing was from it.
Yeah, I don't know. It was hard for me to pick a favorite part of Dynamite. I had to watch it a few times to get a full read of it, I think, and get all the little references and stuff. But I went with right at the beginning. Jungkook is singing, and it's in like what's meant to be, I think, a typical Western bedroom, and he's putting in a lot of like Western references. He's going to jump to the top like LeBron, and the bedroom is decorated with like multiple of the exact same Beatles posters and David Bowie posters and Queen posters and stuff. Like they had the set designer go, "Oh, what do Western people like when they're singing in English?" And it's like, "Oh, the Beatles. So let's get 3 Abbey Road posters in there." I think that's my favorite part. It goes on to be a really colorful episode, I thought, with the giant smoke explosions and all the color. But that was the most amusing part to me.
Mike, your favorite part of BTS Dynamite?
I have never watched a BTS thing, so I have. So I knew that Nate was doing a reference there, but I had no clue what's going on here. So
It took me a solid 7 seconds to figure out what was happening.
I'm still confused. I'm still confused with what's going on here.
It's the first scene on Dynamite. I don't know how you could have missed it, Mike.
I've never seen this music video. I know it's #1 on Billboard right now, but I've never seen it. So.
Nate, I know it's
considerably stronger than this episode of the wrestling promotion.
I know
I believe it.
Nate, I know you have abandoned us, but I'm girl groups only still, no matter what you do.
Yeah, I just that seems like maybe it's kind of outmoded. Maybe that's kind of a problematic, more conservative mindset to limit myself like that. So yeah, all the way in on BTS.
All right, well. I guess I should ask, did you watch the episode of wrestling or did you just watch BTS?
I did. Again? I found myself looking away from it pretty frequently to put on the BTS video again. But yeah, it actually did I had a hard time holding my attention. I'm going to say my favorite part of this was broadly the FTR and Kenny and Hangman segment. I was going to come on and just say Kenny wearing the Hana Kimura shirt and then plugging the shirt was the best part of the show and leave it at that. But the rest of the segment was pretty decent and pretty functional, I thought. Really, the problem with this show is that a lot of things were like, here's what needs to happen in this feud. Here's the functional next step between where we are and where we're going for the pay-per-view. And just everything felt very perfunctory and didn't have a lot of the, emotion or intensity or whatever it is that gets you hooked in pro wrestling. But this segment I thought did a pretty decent job of striking a balance here. And it also exceeded expectations because Kenny comes out for an in-ring promo and you're kind of like, oh, what's this going to be? Kenny doing a promo. He's got a weird Hulk Hogan energy out there when he's promoing, talking to Tony Schiavone. And, it could also be a lot of melodrama between these teams because that's what a lot of this is bordered on. But I thought it was all pretty fine. The last part of the segment with Hangman going to hand the second tag belt to Kenny, and Kenny already having removed himself from the ring, and the camera shooting that well, and turning and seeing that Kenny is also left him alone there in the ring was pretty good. And hey, you get some classic Kenny Golden Lovers continuity and what he talked about as well. So yeah, I'll shout out that segment.
It's something with this segment that it goes high and lows on this segment a lot. Like, there were parts of the segment that I absolutely detested, like the bottle of chalk, like that as like a line just made me cringe. I thought that was pretty lame. And then the idea that FTR, I thought that Dax had a really awesome part of the segment where he went, well, we aren't the bad guys here, Hangman. You fooled yourself. You're the person that is like is like a lost person who's like trying to grab on someone and cling on them. So you're the one who abandoned your friends. That was all you. And I feel like that was a real solid thing that provided this feud a little bit juice. But then he talked about saying he's looking forward for an athletic contest. And I'm like, oh, that is really like, after you're talking about we're going to get the belts, we're going to be the champions, we're going to be the top guys, I'm looking forward to an athletic contest. That part of it didn't do it for me. But overall, for like the things that were moving on towards the pay-per-view, I felt like that this one was the one that really had the necessary next step versus all the other feuds that felt like that they were kind of just treading water and almost forgot that they had another week of TV before All Out.
If you're wondering why I sound different right now, it's because I realized while Nate was talking that my mic wasn't even plugged in. I was just talking into this mic for no reason whatsoever. I looked over to check my levels because I was doing some music earlier, so I had turned the volume up a little, the input, and I was like, okay, I need to make sure I have that back down for the podcast. And I was like, there's no lights on. What the? Oh, not plugged in. So anyway, I'm back.
It does sound different.
Good. Hope it sounds better.
That's good. We won't get any snarky ads about it later.
Yeah, well, we will, but then they'll realize that it's fixed. My thoughts are probably a combination of your all's thoughts. I hated, it's just the classic, what Mike was talking about with the athletic contest, the classic FTR of like, who the fuck are you talking to? Like, you are making this little joke that like 10 people care about in any real way.
Nothing's wrong with making little jokes that fewer than 10 people care about.
Well, okay, but unfortunately, we don't have 900 and whatever thousand people listening to our show. So like, it didn't drive anything elsewhere. It's literally like just to pop them. And so, yeah, I hated that. I thought the Hangman stuff at the end was not very good. The people around him, I thought, did a good job. Yeah. I'm really fascinated obviously we all think FTR is going to win. So I'm fascinated with where they go with Hangman, because it's like, you don't have to turn Hangman heel, right? I still think the whole thing's dumb. Like the thing of him interfering to screw the Bucks, I just think I'll never be able to square that with the rest of his character. But you don't have to make him go heel here. You can do it like, oh, this is, my real absolute low. And we see him kind of building back up. And then you get bigger and bigger crowds and he's received as a hero again. I hope that's kind of the way they go. I guess another interesting idea is perhaps Kenny being the one who goes heel. And you can have like cleaner Kenny for a few months building up to a match with Mox. So I'm just, if nothing else, this is like the one thing on this show that made me think about where we could possibly be going in the future, which is something that's nice.
Yeah, the Hangman did add to his Twitter bio that he is a piece of shit. So, he's exhibiting that he has some regret about that. And maybe this is him hitting his low. The sort of interesting thing about, maybe contemporary wrestling in general is that when those guys turn quote unquote heel, that makes them much more popular as baby faces to cheer, right? Like Hangman is the drunk asshole who was a heel the whole time, was very over as babyface. And obviously the Reddit crowd's going to go ape shit for the cleaner, which is like, I guess technically a heel act, but will be hugely received as a babyface. So yeah, there's kind of a tension there. It's like, yeah, let's turn Hangman and Kenny, and then we turn them, and then they just get more babyface reactions, right? That there's no real. I guess there's no real losing there, but there's also no real winning.
Mike, what about you? What was your favorite part of this episode?
I've been like looking over my notes, and I think it's the Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb match, and it's not because I think that it's necessarily a smart piece of booking. I think it just was a really good match. I felt like that was showing like someone like Serena, who has been around for a while, but still is not someone who that like she's been on US wrestling and she's been part of WWE, but she's been like someone that in a lot of ways was not really used very well when she was in WWE initially. She was rehired as a producer and then was furloughed and came back. But this was just like a solid match. It was given more time than the women's division usually gets. It's a little perplexing, other than let's go out there and have a good match, on having your challenger have like an 8 to 9 minute match against someone that's never been on TV before. And how is that going to get over the idea that your challenger is going to be this person who could beat Hikaru Shida? But other than that, like the match is great. And Serena Deeb is someone that, with how it seems like that they're re-engineering the women's division, given COVID restrictions, given that the British wrestlers that they've had under contract have all pretty much been released, and then no one's coming over from Japan anytime soon. Having someone like Serena Deeb around that would be able to have like these matches that's pretty much training on the fly with like your Anna Jay, your Abaddons, your Tay Contis, whomever, would be such like an added benefit for the promotion right now. And I felt like this match was like the one match where I was not completely perplexed about what we were doing here.
Yeah, I think this was the best wrestling match on the program. And kind of in a little bit of a surprise to me. I've always liked Thunder Rosa, but Serena Deeb, I have probably never seen her like wrestle an honest to God wrestling match. Like she was like, I probably dipped in for part of her run as the Straight Edge Society, but I don't know that she ever wrestled a meaningful match in that time. But I know she had a good reputation, but it was great to see what she had. But yeah, very, very weird for the best wrestling match on the show to have also like kind of been misbooked in that it was 5 minutes too long and the challenger like went too even with this random person who's appearing on your promotion for the first time. I guess it's like, I don't know. I kind of maybe this is projecting or just misreading it or whatever, but I kind of think this is like part of the weird old school like Ring of Honor message board or like PWG superfan kind of thinking, where it's like, oh, we're gonna book this match to show how great a wrestler Thunder Rosa is, which in like this weird post internet wrestling landscape means, oh, she's going to go 10 minutes and have a really good competitive match with someone, instead of being like, oh, she's going to go beat them in 2 minutes and then, stand on their fallen body or whatever. It's like, that's kind of, it's the same thing we see with the Hangman Page and Omega matches, where they go out with everybody under the sun and go for 18 minutes. So that's weird, but, kind of a small complaint because it was, again, the best match on the show.
Yeah, I have this ongoing theory that I think I've mostly done on our light show on our Patreon, that Tony never actually watched territory wrestling. That I don't know where he's like gotten this this reputation for being like a territory guy, but he's obviously just, as you're saying, a Ring of Honor guy, ECW guy. I mean, so I think we see that in this kind of thing, like you're saying, because yeah, the right thing to do would have been to have her come out and just absolutely kill somebody and make it seem like, oh shit, she's really a challenger for Shida. Now it's tough because you don't really have a perfect person for her to like, that's like established enough that you could see Rosa really like beat, and you're like, oh wow, like she's really up there in the echelon or in the upper echelon. But they did this instead, and it was interesting hearing Tony Khan on the media call today. He was saying that he tries to focus on wrestling for 48 shows a year. And then his 4 go-home shows, he wants to have the first hour be focused on wrestling and the second hour focused on stories. And you could hear him, expressing perhaps some regret or some consideration that had played out poorly on this episode, and so that maybe he needed to rethink that strategy. And he kept saying that he was counting on Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb to do the wrestling in the second hour of the show that they were otherwise missing. It's like, well, what's funny, Tony, is this was the time for story, buddy. So
yeah, this is like the one time where like you do need to build up your challenger, and it was good wrestling. Like, it was a fun match, and I get the idea there, but this is like the shame of like that they have like the whole Big Swole now in her own universe right now, Britt Baker, because the person to come in and for Thunder Rosa to beat definitively very quickly would have been Big Swole. And then that would have been a thing of like, all right, Big Swole is a known property, but since she's in a different feud, you can't really like take her out of that for it, because it does feel like that, like with the way that he says like 48 weeks of wrestling and then 4 weeks of stories, this felt like the weakest like go home show they've ever had. Like I don't think I've come on to, I don't think we've done an episode before one of their pay-per-views where we've been like, well, we'll see how things go, because that's kind of how like I feel about this. Like there was someone who was in my mentions today, and I'm going to pull up what they asked me. They asked me like, is this a good time to get in? I've checked out like during May. If I jump back in All Out, how is that going to go for me? And I was like, you know what? Actually, if you're just coming in just for All Out, you're probably going to have a pretty decent time versus someone like who watched that go home show and is like caught up with everything, because by itself, you'd be like, oh, okay, because this was not a way to build up your challenger. It was a great match, not the way to build up a challenger.
Yeah, I don't think Tony's philosophy is necessarily wrong. Like I like the idea of, don't give away the wrestling for free right before people were supposed to pay for it. Instead, we want to tease out these stories and really hammer home what they're about, and then make you want to see the match. That makes sense to me. I just think the execution of how those stories were advanced on this episode didn't go particularly well, except maybe the few segments we're talking about here up top.
That's also interesting though, because they gave away Hardy versus Sammy on TV last week. They gave away what I thought was a pay-per-view match in the Best Friends versus Santana and Ortiz to start the show.
Yeah, opening the show. Yeah,
and it like didn't feel like a blow-off match, but then they're clearly going to be in the battle royale and not working on the pay-per-view. So I'm just
but they were squared up with each other, so it seems like that's going moving forward with those two teams.
Yeah, it's just like, I think what you said earlier, Nate, was right in that it's like Tony's thinking, okay, I got to do the stories on this episode. And he just kind of shoehorned what he had going on into like his idea of what advancing the story is for the pay-per-view, rather than kind of like organically letting this play out up and lead up to the pay-per-view. I know Mike and I talked a lot about on Light about the fact that it's like, or maybe this was in the Discord, but it feels like it almost jumped up on them that this pay-per-view was coming up, and all the things kind of happened in the last 2-3 weeks, rather than, they've got 3 months to build pay-per-views. So,
well, they did build one feud for the pay-per-view across all 3 months. They're just going to put it on the pre-show.
All right. I have to pick an elite pick, and you guys have picked the two things that were good on the show. I don't know.
The opener wasn't bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just, it kind of ended, like, I was kind of bummed of, like, how it played out at the end. But, yeah, the first little bit of the first 2/3 probably of the opener, I thought were really good. And it was like, okay, we're just doing the pay-per-view match here. Well, that's fine. And then they kind of got off of that toward the end, and you had kind of the bullshit finish. But everybody was working hard, and that was a fun match. And that was, yes, probably the third best thing on the show. But there's not a whole lot I can say about it. So,
yeah, they took some sick bumps. That's all.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the delete section. So I guess we could kind of sink our teeth in a little more here. But Nate, what was your least favorite thing on the show?
So yeah, pretty much didn't like most of the rest of the show. But I'll shout out, because this is, the sequel to my deletion from last week, the main event with Jon Moxley beating up the lawyer in just a strictly comedy segment, basically, that turned into a beatdown, and something more direct with MJF in particular. But it was too long. It shouldn't have been in the main event segment. I know he's your champion, but it was a joke match from the beginning against a joke opponent. didn't make any sense to me to put it there. And yeah, by that time of the show, I was pretty much checked out anyway. So yeah, haven't liked the MJF angle from the beginning. They did one cute little thing last week, but still, it's a bunch of fake wrestling contract shit and comedy. I said this feud was going to be fine in retrospect if Moxley just beats him at the pay-per-view and that's it. I think, the only thing at all interesting about it to me was, just a little bit more teasing of Wardlow being a featured player. Cause I'm kind of out on MJF as a top line guy now, and considerably more interested in if Wardlow can get there, if they break him out of there successfully.
Yeah. I'm going to propose something for y'all that it is going to take that. This is in Mike universe, what I've done. I'm sorry to go on the fan booker side of the scale right here, but this is thing. Wouldn't it have been like the thing? It's like, hey, actually, we found a clause to change this out of here. You're not facing Mark Sterling. And then we hear, this is war. And then you just do that, like that whole beatdown part and have that as the match. And you go dark with like the idea of John Moxley's now beat down and bloody. And then you do like a promo maybe at the end of the show, like him claiming vengeance and like that adding the heat to the feud versus I mean, like it was a comedy thing that like existed, but I feel like that if you're already going to have Wardlow there, and Wardlow is someone that is already a known quantity, and having the idea that Wardlow does like the beatdown of him before the show, why not make that into the match itself? Why not be like that the thing to give this some heat? It's like, oh yeah, I found my way out of this loophole. You're actually facing Wardlow instead of my lawyer.
Well, I definitely like the idea better of having Wardlow just like feature in the match instead. If they put a loophole on top of a loophole, I would have been like, okay, now this is fucking doubly stupid because I didn't like the loophole in the first place. But yeah, I mean, really, the stuff with Wardlow was the best part of the MJF and Cody build. Like, he whipped him, did the one whip that was twice as hard as the rest. And then the cage match obviously was superb. So yeah, that, just would have been better if Wardlow had been more involved instead of just being, the heater for the geek lawyer.
It's sick that MJF is going to be the Jannetty of this pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you could literally have just rung the bell for the Mark Sterling versus Moxley match, and then Wardlow came in and started beating the shit out of Moxley.
Yes. Oh, it's a disqualification. He lost. Oh no. Like, what the fuck does Mark Sterling care?
Right. Yeah, you could have just done that.
Yeah, that would have been better right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of mixing Mike's idea with my own, and that's
I'm okay with it.
Because it's like, yes, I was kind of checked out, but you look up and it's like, oh, 4 or 5 minutes have passed. It's like, oh, here's Mox just like chasing him around the ring, like into the barricade or whatever. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here? That's like, I don't know. Well, I'll talk about it when it's my turn. But Mike, what was your pick, bud? What would you have deleted from this show?
Oh man, what wouldn't have I deleted from this show? Okay. The whole like the whole thing of like the whole brawl that went on forever with all the geeks in there, with everyone else who was in the Battle Royal. I guess now Best Friends and Santana and Ortiz and Jake Hager are part of this Battle Royal. But like you started off with like a Taz promo that was pretty decent, and then you started having people come out and just felt like a redux of last week. I mean, we did get the really great line of Eddie Kingston talking about wanting to take Ricky Starks out on a date, and that's content I would love to see. I would love to see the two of them go get a nice seafood dinner, out on the pier in Jacksonville. I think that I really have hope for those kids.
That was like borderline problematic, right?
It was a yikes for me.
Yeah.
It was a little like just maybe stay away.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that like Eddie in there, and that's what you have Eddie doing. And that's a frustrating thing. And then you had everyone else come in and just for like 10 minutes, just like everyone's brawling around the ring. You had Austin Gunn in there. You had like just like you had D3 Ryzen. You did a Fabio Andre, so I was happy about Fabio Andre, to be fair. So it's just something that like when that like happens, it's like, okay, one of these people are going to be the next number one contender for the AEW world title. And I don't care about any of them. Like this made Brian Cage and Lance Archer look terrible because like there was like squawking and then they just were just throwing around people for 10 minutes. There was like no purpose.
Yeah, I didn't, I I didn't mind the execution of the brawl itself. I do kind of, they did a brawl before the tag team battle royal, right? That they did last time. And you do it twice in a row. And it just feels like, again, kind of perfunctory. It's like kind of book by numbers. It's like, well, we have a battle royal. Let's have everybody in the battle royal get into a big brawl. It's like, oh, I don't know. Seems kind of obvious. So, the execution of it itself was fine as far as the guys, running into each other and throwing punches and shit. I just, when Jake gets on the mic, I kind of like tense up and I'm like, oh, it's like good chance it's going to be a train wreck now. Because the positive of having guys that are free to just promo and write their own shit and come up with whatever they're going to come up with is like, you get much better promos. But when you have 3 promo guys out there and one of them is Jake and he can't really promo anymore and he doesn't make sense a lot of the time and he's going to interrupt the other 2 people a lot. It's the same thing with the Arn Anderson segment. It's like, okay, we have to rely on Arn to keep him on track because he might just start rambling about whatever the fuck. And that just kind of takes me out of it. So, if it was just Eddie and Taz in there and then, Lance Archer doesn't have Jake the Snake and he comes out and kills somebody, I think that's a better segment.
Okay, but we did get to hear Jake say that he was not going to let Brian Cage bust a nut. So
yeah, he's also weirdly sexual all the time. I just have no use. He doesn't add anything to the act to me.
I did like Taz saying, Jake Roberts, who did he ever beat? Which is just like, I fucking love that when a wrestler says that about another wrestler.
Taz is not wrong.
No, I mean, I'm sure it was like a rib, between the 2 of them of something they've discussed. But
it's just something that, like, how are we supposed to, like, and this has been something about almost all their battle royals. Like, how are we supposed to really come in here thinking that anyone winning this battle royal is instantly going to be do anything other than lose to either Moxley or MJF? Like, there was the idea about when Cage came in and looked like an absolute monster in the ladder match and won the ladder match, he felt like he could be something. I look at this, and maybe if this is me hoping that someone else comes in here, because I sat here and watched this and I was like, oh, one of these people are going to win. Okay. And like, that's not how you want like this kind of thing to be built up as.
I do. It is a colorful collection of guys. Like all, I guess this is like the upper mid card is this group of people. And there's a lot of different characters there. And I'm pretty interested in most of the characters there. So I guess that's to their benefit. Like you can see how they could book a really good battle royal with these people. If they do. But yeah, just that, it was kind of weighed down by Jake and by this just seemingly perfunctory thing. Like, oh, we have to do a brawl now. So there's going to be a brawl. It's that thing again where it's like, I complained about how a lot of the segments on the show are like, from an objective perspective, you stand back and it's like, yes, that's the thing they needed to do for the story here. And it's like, yeah, it's technically fine. It's technically serves its purpose for the story and for pro wrestling. I just want some like fire there. I want something that gets me more fired up about it. And it doesn't seem, it seems a little more natural and a little less mechanical.
Yeah, because there's really no care given here. I mean, you can kind of do this thing in one of 2 ways. One, you just focus on the Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, Lance Archer thing. And everybody else is kind of window dressing for their issue. And one of them wins the battle royal. And that's like, that works. That's fine. Or you can also do this thing where there's lots of different stories intersecting, but then you have to give real close attention to each of those stories so that we can zoom in on one little thing during the battle royal. And we see, okay, for example, the Best Friends and Santana and Ortiz thing, but that just kind of feels like an afterthought at this point. So I just feel like they could have gone one of 2 ways with this, but instead they try to do a mix up of both, and it just muddies the water for everything that's going on. And I'll lead that right in to my delete, which is just the build to All Out overall. I mean, coming out of this show, let's see, look at the card. I'm not more excited. Well, I said it up top. Hangman Page and Omega versus FTR. They probably built my anticipation for that match on this show. But nothing else. Not one other match am I more excited about than I was coming into the show. They usually, in the past, I feel like they've done a much better job of it. Now, sometimes they only focus on one or two feuds, but they will really escalate it in that go home show to get you like, or sometimes they'll do the biggest escalation in the show right before the go home show. And so it does kind of like slide into the pay-per-view, but still, I don't think any of these feuds reached that level. You know, I'm trying to think back to some of the ones that I've like been really hyped up for. Cody and Jericho. There's nothing on this show that's like as exciting. Like I'm looking forward to seeing as much as that match.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think they kind of fumbled the go home show for that one. Was that the contract signing they did on the last show before the pay-per-view?
No,
it was the one before, I think, right?
Yeah, they did a contract signing the day before, because this was the Charlotte show I was at, where they had Cody call him a dick, and then they had the big Inner Circle and Elite Brawl, which had people going off the tunnels. And that was the final thing, was like everyone brawling, and we're out of time. We'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah, they did fuck that one up in like the week before the go home show.
Yeah.
It was bad. But frankly, maybe there's not a match that they've just like nailed point to getting you to the pay-per-view. But in this one, it's just like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a big pay-per-view to me. I'm not like really fired up to watch this show on Saturday night. I just think they did a poor job building good matches that they have. They're not built very well.
And it's something that when you have 4 shows like this a year, and when this is like the spiritual second anniversary for whatever you want to call this, like the whole All Elite Wrestling going back to All In, like this is the second anniversary show in a lot of ways. And shouldn't this like feel bigger? Shouldn't this feel like it's a big show? Because like looking into like Full Gear, Revolution, everything felt like it was hitting a major stride at that point. And even Double or Nothing, I think more fondly back to how they built up Moxley and Brody Lee as the world title match for Double or Nothing. And then the Stadium Stampede was built up incredibly well going to that. And now I'm like left with going like, well, Wardlow did look really cool beating up John Moxley. And that's it.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is that we've kind of seen a lot of this stuff we've kind of seen already. Like Jericho and Orange Cassidy, we've seen twice already. Hardy and Sammy, we've seen have a gimmick match already. Honestly, the best feud as far as feeling that there's real heat between it, there's a real personal issue there. There's like real fire about these guys wanting to kill each other is Darby and Ricky Starks, and they're in the Battle Royal.
Yeah, that match should be on this show. I'm just gonna say it, folks. Their star making machine is broken. They're not making stars. No, but seriously, like, who are the Brody Lee? They made a star, I thought, out of Brody Lee, and then they buried him in an 8-man tag.
Well, that's fine. That's not any sort of indictment on having gotten Brody Lee over. Like it's a holdover match because he's not going to be the focus for this pay-per-view cycle because he just won the belt. That's fine.
And you have the idea that it's all of Cody's friends and Scorpio Sky that are out for vengeance. So like for like a lower card match on the show when he's not in the spotlight, that's like the one thing I could say is not like an absolute indictment. I get that. I still think it's weird to follow up Brody Lee with nothing, but you also did a title change 2 weeks before the pay-per-view, so you didn't have a chance to get a some sort of program going.
But let's look at this. Mike and I were talking about this the other day. John Moxley's your number 1 babyface. Who's your number 2 babyface?
Orange Cassidy.
Who's your number 3 babyface?
Oh, should we count Cody or just people on this card?
No, you can count Cody.
Okay. Cody.
Wait, is Cody number 2 or number 3?
3.
You think Cody's below Orange Cassidy?
Yeah.
But like after that, there's not a singles guy who you would expect to like run up in, who would have like made sense in a title match on this show.
Like against Brody?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why that's because they haven't built anybody yet because you just won the belt. Yeah, that's why I think the match is fine.
But my point is, even if they don't have the match here, they haven't built the people up. They haven't made the guys to headline these shows.
Again, they haven't done it yet, but the Scorpio Sky push is coming. I swear to God. That's why he's in the match, is to start that.
But when you think about it, it's also true on the heel side. It's like Chris Jericho, MJF, Brody Lee, Cliff.
Sammy's probably 4.
Sammy's a hot heel. FDR only just became. FDR doesn't feel hot, but the tag team match is pretty well built.
No, that's good. That's good. I mean, your next guys are like Lance Archer and Brian Cage, I guess, but they've also already lost title matches. I just think when you start to look at it, you start to realize that like they haven't really built enough guys at this point. And I know there's like a COVID issue, I'm sure, but I just think there was a time when it felt like there was more hot acts in this company than right now. I feel like it's pretty cold beyond the very top of the card.
I think these builds are kind of cold. I don't think many of the guys are cold. I think most of the guys are like 1 week away from being hot.
I don't know.
Like and I think that's kind of it's something that I was hyped about this promotion is that they wouldn't just put every single person on every single episode of TV. We'd have to see them constantly, which necessitates that people just get cycled out and they're not going to be, a featured act on every pay-per-view. So like, Lance Archer, he has destroyed a bunch of guys, won a tournament, or got second place in a tournament, lost one title match, and then has continued to destroy a bunch of guys. So I don't think it's not a matter of him not being made or not being protected. It's just a matter of we don't have time to feature everybody right now, so he's got to do something else for a little bit, and then we'll heat him back up when we want to.
That's fine if your top feuds are hot, but theirs aren't. So it's just like
right, and that's a matter of execution and just like missing the boat on the whole concept of the MJF storyline and stuff. That's that was that mistake, and it affected the whole pay-per-view cycle here. And you just got to sort of take them as they come.
Well, you know what is hot? Summertime. And you know what summertime means? Winning season at MyBookie. Here's the big thing that we have for our listeners. New customers receive a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. So if you haven't deposited at MyBookie before, if you deposit $100, you'll get a free $100. You deposit $1,000, you'll get a free $1,000. You can use that to bet on, everything. There's lots of stuff going on right now. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. There's Major League Baseball. There's UFC. There's WWE if you're an insane person. I saw some XFL props. So there's lots of stuff you can do. I mean, I don't have a good one as Kendra Lust showing up in AEW. But I think, the big thing that's going on right now is the NBA playoffs. So, sure. Nate, have you continued your Raptors fandom from last year?
No.
They won the title and you're done.
No. Well, there's no point to being a fan, for the full regular season or anything like that. You check in for the playoffs.
Well, it's the playoffs, buddy.
Okay, yeah, but it's fake playoffs. And then you find the team that's going to win that has the best story, and then you watch the finals. And again, you get 90% of the satisfaction that people have watched the Raptors be a losing team for a decade would get.
Well, a good way to get satisfaction and get excitement from any team is to bet, baby. That's how you get some buy-in on anything. So the Raptors still coming in. Unfortunately, the second longest odds, plus 2,500 to win the championship. Mike, who you got winning this championship, NBA?
I mean, the Mavericks are already out, so I'm kind of heartbroken there. The Raptors are looking okay. Like,
they're down 0-2, buddy.
I have faith in the Raptors. Like, to be honest, when the Mavericks lost, I kind of was a little bit out. I mean, the Lakers are a team that, like, it's such a powerful team now. Now you have the second year of LeBron that I could see that happening. So maybe what are the odds for the Lakers winning the title right now?
Lakers are the favorite, plus 240.
I mean, that's
the Lakers.
I have one that I just pulled up that I think that we could have some fun with. This one is a wrestling bet.
Okay.
Brock Lesnar's next contract.
Oh.
So we have 6 options here and 6 varied options. Of course, WWE is a leader at plus 125. UFC at plus 250, AEW at plus 350, Bellator at plus 500, New Japan Pro Wrestling at plus 650, or bare knuckle fighting for plus 800. Who do you got?
Bare knuckle fighting, of course, the home of Paige Van Zandt.
Yes, the home of Paige Van Zandt.
Tony missed the boat on. Where were you at on that one, Tony? The favorite being WWE, that makes sense. I think I'm kind of most interested in the idea of Brock Lesnar showing up on AEW TV with no contract and for no deal, just as a way to say to WWE, man, you better pull up the Brinks truck right now. Because I think that would be a very fun sort of thing for AEW to do as a promotional tactic. But I think the safe bet is WWE. I'm going to stick with them.
Yeah, you can mark off New Japan. That's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, that's a sucker bet right there.
Yeah, but
would be fun though.
Yeah, my bet. I know he said today he doesn't want to fight. My bet's Bellator. I think they're gonna go pony up
plus 500. Okay,
yeah, that's where I'm laying my money.
You're going for a long shot.
They wouldn't shell out for Paige Van Zandt either.
Well, they're gonna shell out for Brock Lesnar.
So these are the kinds of bets you could do at mybookie.ag using promo code ELITE. So there's a lot of stuff out there. They have Heisman Trophy odds. I mean, NCAA season's about to kick off. Of course, there's a lot of you could bet on the Heisman Trophy winner right now. Bo Nix is plus 2,000. That's a fun one right there. Derrick King, 1,200, and Trevor Lawrence is leading at plus 200. So there's all kinds of things you could bet on at mybookie.ag.
Yep, just you hit ELITE as your promo code. It'll double your first deposit. Again, if you're a new player, you get up to $1,000 doubled in your deposit. So do that. Your winning season begins today only at MyBookie.
I just want to, for a brief moment, imagine the beautiful discourse we would get if Brock Lesnar signed to New Japan Pro Wrestling and started throwing Naito around. full on Lesnarism discourse entered the New Japan sphere would be beautiful.
That's what I'm rooting for.
Suplex City on Naito.
Just right, and Naito taking every single one on the crown of his head.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then Hiromu's trying to come in there because Hiromu's been like the one person who's been saving Naito. He gets thrown around.
Brock does like some shitty Asian person like thing.
Yeah. The racist Naito pose to him, yeah. but not understanding that it's he's reclaimed it or whatever.
But sincerely,
I didn't know that was your thing. I was just being racist at you.
I mean, that's the likelihood. I'm thinking about throwing some money on Derrick King winning the Heisman Trophy. That's plus 200, plus 1,200. Go Canes right there. Like the best Heisman candidate Miami's had in years.
I'll tell you what I'm betting on, or what I'm mad that I bet against. AEW not breaking 1 million. I think I said the rest of this year.
Yeah, you did. And looking at the ratings this week, AB, I was the one person with faith, and I'm the one person that, as a man of the cloth, a man of the faith, I'm being rewarded.
Well, I got, what were the bets that we got backwards? Because they didn't average it this week.
No, but I'm just saying, like, what we're hearing, what it looks like is that USA is interested in pulling NXT off of Wednesdays and moving them to Tuesdays. That makes sense. We see they did 849,000 with nobody going up against them. AEW with no competition, all the way up to 928,000. So, I mean, I think you can foresee. Tony was also selling today that there's going to be a lot of surprises on the next episode of Dynamite. So he's unfortunately, as Nate, I can't remember if you tweeted this or if you said it in a chat, but unfortunately, they did a lot of viewers for a very bad show. That was in the chat.
I think if you have your unopposed week and it's your go home show, you should do a good show instead of a bad show. I do. Okay. If NXT moves off of Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Wednesday night wars are over. I have two questions. What happens to the Wednesday Night Wars podcast? And what do we call the new Tuesday Night Wars? The Tuesday Night Tussles?
I think Tuesday Night
Tussles. What are
they
going up against?
Impact, baby.
Oh,
Impact was massively down this week because of NXT. Like
the S plus class show.
Impact. Did I read that they did like 170,000 or something like that?
Well, no, that's what they usually do. They lost 70,000 because they were up against NXT.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. It's something that I know Dave Meltzer on The Observer was like, oh no, USA wants to go against TNT. And I was like, that sounds like he was just being oddly confrontational about that, because USA probably, like, they know the kind of deal they have now, and they know like what's going on, what they're paying for NXT. They got their asses handed to them for a full year about this. The idea of, okay, you maybe like stopped like early momentum, but if this is AEW's back to, this was their best in the sub demos. This was their best at men 18 to 49 since 2019. And then like the best, tied at the best, like demo share as well. And then like just the best overall viewership since the first week of COVID. And it's something that's like, if you really wanted this war, and if you're the network programmer and you want to stick having a program that was doing about like 600,000 against this, or if you want to have something that's going like 850 and has potential to grow, what are you going to take if you're the one that's programming the station? You're going to move the show. So it just makes sense.
Well, it's funny that there's such a significant difference in what is probably fundamentally a difference of some number of hundreds of thousands of people that watch one show live and watch the other show on DVR. Because the NXT rating went up when they got away from AEW, and we know that AEW, would do numbers into the million range when you factor in DVR viewing. So it's like you're just letting those viewers watch both shows live instead of watching one on tape delay, and that makes like a huge difference just because they might actually see the ads that it's all about. So it's kind of a weird function of how television works.
I was going to say, I'm totally with you on that, Nate. It makes more sense, and it seems like it's something that we've seen what happens. We've seen that NXT failed on Wednesday, and now for that program, like they want to go move to Tuesday and have 1 hour Iron Man matches that end in a draw. Go right ahead. And if people want to watch that, they can go right ahead. But it just does not make sense for them to continue with that logic, seeing the success elsewhere.
Really looking forward to the Jericho promo when NXT moves to Tuesday.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Mike, do you want to talk about your conversion model here, or when we talk about All Out at the
Is this converting to the Church of the Demo God? Is that the conversion model?
Yes.
I mean, it is. You're buying graces. You're doing your tithing into this. So I mean, yeah, I guess this does. I can talk about this here. So last time when Double or Nothing happened, I said that I'm developing something to kind of see if there's some sort of projection or something that I could tell where does like the last month's lead up of TV result in like an accurate thing of telling you how many people that will buy the pay-per-view. So I developed a number that's basically saying like, okay, 5-week average, and then I compare it to the pay-per-view buys, and we see how many people that watched the show over the last month bought the pay-per-view. And with how well Double or Nothing 2020 did, again, that was an insane pay-per-view that did. It was their best buy rate they had so far at 115 to 120,000 buys. It jumped it up, and for Double or Nothing, I was massively under with just under 80,000 projected buys. This time I have a lot more realistic one. I'm seeing about 109,000 buys, which would be more in line with what they're doing. So that's just something that I've been keeping track of, and I'll keep track as long as we're doing the show and as long as AEW is in existence. I'm going to keep track of this until I can definitively say my idea is bullshit or if it's something that I can prove in fact.
Mike, we're going to do this show forever, buddy.
Okay, that's cool.
Just till all three of us die.
Simultaneously.
Holding hands at the same time, we're all going to die at the same moment.
Yes. All right, well, let's get into the stuff we haven't talked about from Dynamite on Wednesday night. The show opened, as we mentioned, with Santana and Ortiz defeating the Best Friends. Santana pinned Trent with the street sweeper after he hit Trent with a baton in the back.
Yeah, this was weird finish.
Just was what it was.
It was good, but it was good. But why did it happen? I don't know. Like
that was the whole show.
Yeah,
well, except not good. But just why did it happen?
Yeah. It was like Chuck took a bump on 60 chairs.
Yeah,
and the feud continues. I don't know.
Yeah,
that was nuts.
Nothing. Yeah.
I mean, we got Deathmatch Dustin for whatever reason.
This is energy.
Yeah, not going to do that rant here. I'll just save it for when I'm lying alone in bed at night. MJF.
Yeah, Sarah sleeping in the other room, buddy.
Well, maybe soon. She may have gotten exposed to COVID at work today, so we may have to sleep in different houses for a while. Yeah, prayers up for a real one. MJF is backstage with Wardlow. He says this can only end with MJF becoming the AEW World Champion. Lee Johnson interrupts him to say that Mark Sterling has locked himself in their locker room. This should have been my elite pick. I fucked up. MJF knocks on the door. Sterling says he has a way out, but Wardlow just kicks in the door and drags him out.
And then Mark Sterling goes, "Oh, hi, Wardlow." that was the best part of this whole MJF storyline, is him kicking the door in, and Mark Sterling's like, "Oh, hey, it's my buddy Wardlow."
Mark Sterling, for as much as we buried it, he's been great at playing this character. It's just a shame this character should not be existing.
Right, and now it's like you got a talented guy, and you've cast. He's stuck in this role now. Can you use him in the future? I don't know. It kind of strains credulity to be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that lawyer. Well, he's a wrestler now." So it's like,
well, Joseph Park. Joseph Park was a lawyer that was a wrestler.
Oh Christ.
Well, I gotta say, friend of the show, Kath Barbadoro, said on Twitter that she was watching this and said that, like, anytime you see something like this, you can't help but think how much better it would be if it was Stokely Hathaway. And hard agree with that.
If it was Stokely managing Mark Sterling as the wrestler, sure.
And Wardlow's still there. Oh, hi, Wardlow.
It's my buddy Wardlow. Hey.
hey, bud, how's it going? Oh, okay.
MJF says, all I've ever wanted to be was a world champion. I know you're scared, but there's nothing scarier than when you get in the way of my goals. The Young Bucks and Jurassic Express defeated Private Party and SCU. Matt,
I do kind of. That is kind of a good line. I like that, where he's like, "Yeah, you're scared of him. Well, it's scarier to be in the way of me and my ambition." That's pretty good heel promo stuff. I want to throw him a bone because we've been pretty rough. That was a good line. Okay, go on.
Nate trying to avoid more death threats.
I went and looked for the death threat. I couldn't find it.
Well, he might have deleted it. I don't know.
Okay.
The Young Bucks.
Was it MJF himself?
Yeah, it could have been. I'm going to try this one more time. Young Bucks and Jurassic Express defeated Private Party and SCU. Matt Penn, Mark
Oh, I'm
Quinn.
sorry. Were you waiting on me? My bad. I didn't mean to.
Matt Penn, Mark Quinn after the BT trigger. This match, the idea was whoever won would face each other at the pay-per-view. So we'll get the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express on All Out, which should be fun.
Yeah, my favorite part of this match was they talked on BTE about they quizzed Jurassic Express on how to work a tag match and how the whole thing should be, the rest of the teammates taking the heat leading up to the big Luchasaurus hot tag. And that's exactly what they did here. And it was like, oh, great. They told us exactly what they're going to do. And then they did it and it worked.
This was fun, but it's also the thing about this pay-per-view that I'm like, why is this happening? And like, that's like the hard thing about this show is like, there are things that like I enjoy, but overall it's still in this wrapper that it's just very frustrating. Like I thought Private Party, and I feel like I say this once every 3 months, I feel like that Private Party looked really good in this, and maybe Private Party is now getting good. So it was a fun match.
Jake Hager.
Oh, are you ready to talk now? Oh,
backstage.
you were taking a while.
Couldn't find that mute button, bud. He's backstage. He sits down next to Orange Cassidy. He says, Jericho wants you ringside for his match tonight. It'd be smart to be there. And Orange digs in his JanSport.
They tried to do cover for this because they're like, oh, we're not going to have invisible cameras backstage. But they wanted to show this locker room meeting. So they did cover for it by having JR, I think, say, Jake Hager has his own camera crew backstage just to set this up. And then JR kept bringing it up as though it was going to pay off in some way later. Like, hey, Jake Hager's got a camera crew tonight. Who knows what that's about? It's like, no, JR, it's not real, man.
That's like
JR. I've kind of turned the corner on JR and kind of enjoy him now, but I think this was not his best night.
This a bad night for you to say that, actually, Nate. Showed his ass a little in the women's match. Tully Blanchard is backstage with FTR. Tully, God, he shat the fucking bed on this part of his promo.
Yeah, that was a shame because Tully's been a consistent promo. Like even with things I'm not necessarily caring about, Tully's always been good, but this was not it. Like this whole this was like a whole quarter hour of three good lines and an awkwardness.
He's just like, this is the thing, where they don't write the promos, but for some of these guys, they need to think about it more, I guess, because he had this idea where he's like, when I stood between you and said, you have to win the gauntlet to get the match, you did it. And it's like, okay, but what about the win? He lost the plot in the middle of this promo.
I think, I kind of have trust in the guys to come up with their own shit, but they need to do more this quality control and touching base with everybody else about what they're going to talk about. The
Practice.
same thing happened. Yes, the same thing happened in the next segment where it's like, okay, Hangman or Omega does this promo, and then FTR comes out, and they're kind of talking past each other. They're not really exactly linking up on what's being said in the exchange from one person to the other.
Yeah, Cash says this is the most important match of our career. Our legacy is dead if we don't win. Bad news. FTR does not have a legacy at this point. Dax says, Paige, as much as I like you, I like being champions more. Then we've got Kenny Omega coming out to the ring with Tony Schiavone being there. He says, a very lonely Hangman Page was taken by FTR and fooled. These things happen. We move on. And so FTR is just like every other team we've faced. We will beat them. Which I thought this was good. Like a good way for Kenny to kind of put a bow on that little part of the story. FTR and Tully walk out. Dax says, you and Adam have had a great run. I'm impressed with it. We've got no problem with you, Kenny, which, hold on a fucking second. Like 2 weeks ago, the whole thing was that like they were at each other's throats.
Yeah.
With the beer thing.
There was the beer thing, but then they squashed that and they were all getting along over gallons of milk backstage.
Yeah, but then he says, we never had a problem with you.
But then FTR, took out the Rock and Roll Express, and that like, okay, you're heels now.
Yeah.
You're obviously on the bad side of the Bucks and all the good guys. Yeah, it's a little bit all over the place.
So he says, at All Out, we're looking forward to have a great athletic contest with you, which I hate. He says, so let's cheers to that, which is not a thing people say. And then he hands Kenny a chocolate milk. And he says, we've known each other for 3 months, and you've already learned I can't turn down a choc. I thought this was funny, Mike. I'm going to disagree with you. I'm sorry.
It's cringe. It's cringe.
I don't know. I mean, Kenny is cringe, so it's just like it works.
So it doubles up on the cringe. It doesn't cancel out.
Yeah.
It's kind of the right side of cringe for Kenny, I think. I think it's on the right side. I mean, it is kind of cringe, but I think it's on the right side of cringe.
I liked it. I thought it was funny.
If there were crowds, the crowds would love it.
Oh, yeah. We would have gotten whatever the full phrase was, we would have gotten a chant of that.
Pint of chalk.
Yeah,
of chalk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but
that might be something that they have to be real careful about with Turner chanting pint of chalk. That might sound a little bit too close to something, given how the censors were working tonight or last night.
Well, next, right after that, Mike, I guess you already watched this. You already knew what was coming next, but he said, what I can turn down is spending any more time than I need to with a couple of dickheads. So, kind of similar. If your whole plan was to bamboozle me while I'm by myself, we might as well get it over with. This is also good. It's like, okay, Kenny understands what happens in pro wrestling. He's like, all right, just kick my ass if that's what you're going to do. Paige walks out. Dax, this was the strongest part, I thought, Dax's part here. He's like, hey, it's the great hero, Adam Page, the big star. Why don't you explain to Kenny who got in your head? Tell them who made you turn on your best friend so you wouldn't have to have a rematch with them at All Out. It wasn't us. It wasn't anybody. It was you. I've known Adam Page his whole career, and the whole time he's been nothing more than an insecure little boy. So tell them how big a piece of shit you are. I think Kenny already knows.
I mean, it was FTR that got in his head, though.
Yeah, for sure. But they're heels, right?
So they're heels.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It was the heelish thing to say there.
Yeah, no,
but it is a lie.
Dax was good here. But then this was like, this kind of broke down, and then Kenny kind of awkwardly left. Hangman is not doing a great job. I think he's not good at melodrama.
It's an extremely tough role for a wrestler to play and be cool also. Right?
Yes.
I'm really in my feelings right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, luckily we know the match is going to be good, and we'll see kind of how they thread all this together.
I think we'll get a nice clean breaking point of the match where Hangman and Kenny will break off, and Hangman will break off from FTR, and then they can just start from him as a singles guy from scratch and, try and recapture some of the badass hold my beer cowboy stuff.
All right. Alex Marvez was backstage with Chris Jericho. He asked him about the Mimosa Mayhem match. Jericho says, when's the last time you experienced something for the very first time? Well, this Saturday, fans worldwide will get to experience the Mimosa Mayhem, the culmination of 14 weeks of Jericho versus Orange Cassidy. Talks about how he's helped make Orange Cassidy into a main event star. That's why he has to put a bullet in his head and send it back where he came from. I think this is funny. It's like, maybe it's also a little like inside baseball, but the idea that like, wait a fucking second, this guy's getting on my level. I've got to stuff him out. Like, that's funny.
Like I totally, when Jericho's in commentary, he's speaking, inside terms, inside baseball, like 40% of the time. He's just unable not to, which is very amusing. So it totally fits for his character here.
He shifts over to Joey Janela. He says, "You're a sacrifice tonight. I'm going to give you a little taste of what Orange Cassidy is getting on Saturday." This led right into Chris Jericho defeating Joey Janela with the Walls of Jericho. After the match, Jericho continues to beat up Janela. Joey bleeds. Orange, I thought, kind of slowly intervenes. It was it took him a little long to get out there. But Hager and Jericho get the advantage. Sonny Kiss comes out to help, which you love to see. Hager, it wasn't a brain buster, spine busters, Sonny. And that gives Orange a chance to knock Hager out. So it's down to just Jericho and Orange. Orange gives him a DDT. He's about to go with the Superman punch, but Hager drags Jericho out. Orange puts on his sunglasses. He's got a little bit of the bubbly in the Jan Sport. He pulls it out, but he pours it out and gives it the thumbs down.
You didn't shout out the finish, which I thought was the highlight of this match. The Janela going for the springboard move and Jericho catching him in a code breaker. I thought was a really, really good finish. I almost forgot about this segment really, but this was solid. I don't have any complaints about this really. Janela is where he is. He made Jericho's finisher look great. And at least we got some confirmation that the Janela Sonny Kiss thing is not just like dead and buried by Sonny coming out here for the save.
Yeah, this was a perfectly effective thing. It was something that it did feel like that they kind of put this one as like a back burner thing now that's already been announced and done. You've already done kind of a thing here, but like this was a decent thing where you're like, we still need to have something with Jericho and Orange Cassidy going to the pay-per-view. I'm just hoping we really get the Bellagio fountains with the Mimosa Mayhem match. Like that's like my big takeaway about this. Like if I don't see a single Mimosa fountain, I'm going to be pretty heartbroken.
We get a video recapping the Matt Hardy Sammy Guevara feud, setting up the Broken Rules match, which it turns out is just a last man standing match. And the stipulation is that Hardy leaves AEW if he loses. Sammy comes out and he's got his poster boards. He's doing his gimmick. They cut to Matt Hardy standing somewhere, like up above, kind of looking. And then, like, that's it. Nothing actually happens between the two of them.
Yeah, this was, like, actually insane, I think, to put this here.
Yeah.
This has been the, up to this point, I think, was the most heated rivalry because Sammy just, like, took Matt Hardy's fucking head off with a giant chair. And then they had like a stipulation match where he killed them through a table and a chair again. Both guys were fucking bleeding all over the place in this feud. And then for the big go home angle, basically mostly during an ad break, and they already did the spot that would make sense here, which is have Matt Hardy attacking during the ad break. They already did that, so they can't do it again. So instead, Matt Hardy stands very far away from him and holds up some signs. And that's Don't get the thinking there. And I hate this stipulation. I hate, they already do too many stipulations, but this stipulation and then now it's a loser leaves town match for no reason. Hated when they did that with Dustin Rhodes and hated again here. It's like, at least make it thematically appropriate for it to be loser leaves town or like give us some indication that Matt Hardy's winding down. I don't know.
The thing I got from this segment was major, that's the Wall brother vibes going on in picture. Like, what are we doing here? like I know I feel like I've said that a lot, but this was like the segment where like they're holding up signs, like arguing with each other. And it's like, y'all have busted each other open a lot.
That's a week one angle where it's like, oh, right. Wow, they're really, Matt Hardy's making some jokes at Sammy's expense with signs.
Right, yeah. And you know how like I think about like beat to beat and how the feud is. You already had like the heighted thing of all right, Matt Hardy known as being someone who did like all these TLC matches, lost at his match, and now we have this next match. Like that makes sense. Like it's not necessarily what I would do, but it makes sense where they're going with. Then you're holding up signs and shout at each other in a blood feud. That's lame. Like,
I disagree that it makes sense, Mike, because
in their logic, it's like, okay, we've now gotten to a certain point, and if I lose, I'm leaving town. That's
that's fucking dumb because Because
It
Matt
could have been a
Hardy,
short-term contract from Matt Hardy. I mean, think about when he signed and what the world was like 6 months ago. It would make sense to leave to do 6 months in AEW and then go do a bunch of high money indie dates afterwards.
No, that's not my problem. I don't give a fuck about whether Matt Hardy is actually leaving or staying or whatever. My deal is Matt Hardy's the babyface in this feud.
Mm-hmm. Easily.
Matt Hardy gets this tables match with Sammy Guevara, which he loses.
Mm-hmm.
Then the babyface says, then the heel says, I want to face you again, and you can pick the stipulation. And then if the babyface loses the match where he picks the stipulation, he has to leave the promotion. It's completely fucking backwards. It doesn't make any sense. It should have gone exactly the opposite way.
Oh no, it should have. I was not thinking about that segment when I was saying like the character beats. Like I'm thinking about like week what you did the match, now you're doing the other match. But the way they set this up, no, you're entirely right with that. I agree with you.
It's
outrageous.
Dumb. It makes no logical sense.
But
again, it's what we talked about earlier. This is a symptom of Tony's ECW fantasy booking rather than actually having watched Mid-South. It doesn't make sense from like a old school type wrestling angle. It's very bizarre.
Should we call him East Alhambra Tony from now on?
We should. It's
catching on.
It is. More and more people are saying that. Team Taz comes out. I'm not going to recap everything they said. Basically, Taz talking shit. Jake Roberts comes out. He talks some shit. Eddie King, he says he's not going to let anybody bust a nut in the ring. Eddie Kingston comes out. He's talking shit. And they all start brawling. And then Inner Circle comes out. Best Friends come out. D3 comes out. Fabu Andre comes out. Everybody's out there. And we get a big brawl. Next up, there's a video recapping the Dark Order story, giving us the build to the 8-man tag for the pay-per-view. Then Thunder Rosa defeated Serena Deeb with the Blue Thunder driver. I think we all did our takes on that match.
Well, here's another take. Why wasn't the champion anywhere on the show?
Well, see, you don't actually want to build the match.
They did a good video last week with both of them.
Yep.
I don't know. Just give Sheeta that promo earlier in the show, or I don't know, anything. I don't know.
Why not just do a face-off after the match? Just anything.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess maybe I'm trying to think. Sheeta's been ringside for a lot of the shows and visibly at ringside. So, do you want her there as the champion, and then Rosa just comes over and gets in her face? I think maybe you just do. I think maybe you just want that.
Or you can just have Rosa do like a 2-line promo after the match of Hikaru Shida, I'm coming for you next. Shida comes out and they face off, and then you cut to the next thing. Yeah. Easy stuff. Moxley's backstage. He says it's championship week. Saturday night, MJF's getting his shot. He says nothing else really matters because at the end of the night, it's just going to be them in the ring. And he says MJF has to be the meanest, most savage MJF he's ever been. He says, we don't need MJF's dumbass running around with the world title. I can't let that happen. Pretty good. He says, you're here, kiddo. Now it's trial by fire. I know you think you're hot stuff, but everything you've done up until now has been the easy part. And I thought that was a good line and a good way to end this promo.
Good Mox promo. It's a shame that that's immediately forgotten because of the main event.
I saw somebody on Twitter today say that MJF had out-promoed.
I saw that also.
What the fuck have you been watching?
That's an insane take. That is no.
I think it's just WWE brand. That's all I can think that it is.
Yeah.
Apologies, semi-apologies, I guess, if you're a listener, but yeah.
Well, I mean, that's my thing. My whole thing is this guy, the death threats guy. It's why do you need to agree with everything somebody says on the podcast you listen to? Why does it matter if the person disagrees with you about whether the wrestling angle is good? I find that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
bizarre.
Everyone has their minds broken. We know this, but
yeah. Okay. Tony Schiavone is with Big Swole. He announces Big Swole versus Britt Baker on the buy-in, the tooth and nail match. Big Swole says, Britt, you've been ducking and dodging me for the longest time. On Saturday, you won't have anywhere to hide. Every fucking which I get it, and it makes sense, but every promo 3 times, somebody's like, on Saturday night, the match we're going to have on Saturday. Pizza delivery person comes out, of course, but it's Rebel. and it's a distraction to let Britt attack Swole, and she does that.
It was nice to see Britt up and moving.
Yes.
I already complained last week preliminarily. I think Aaron, you said, "Oh, it could be on the buy-in." I was like, "Well, that would be insane to put it on the buy-in. They'd be out of their minds. They've been building it for 3 months, and it's actually closer to 6 months." But in fact, it's on the buy-in, which I do not understand. I guess they're going to do a pre-taped match here, and it seems to me that the benefit of doing a pre-taped match is you could make sure it's good, so that it should be main show worthy. But no, this long-running television storyline is going to be a pre-taped match on the pre-show to the actual pay-per-view. They spend all this time on the Britt character, and she's, like their first woman signed to the division, and she just can't break out from the pre-show because they don't, give anybody enough time.
Yeah, and Chelsea in the Discord said that including All Out in 6 pay-per-views, Britt has been on the pre-show 5 times. So you're exactly right. All right, we're running short on time, but I do want to quickly play a game because I thought of it and thought it'd be funny. So we'll see what happens. This is called the Tooth and Nail game. If you don't know, Tooth and Nail Records, a Christian label that had a bunch of emo bands that I liked when I was like 17. They still exist though.
Well, that was older than I thought.
Oh, probably even older than that, really.
So like 14.
So I was looking at their lineup, and it struck me that many band names of this type are indistinguishable from restaurants in gentrified neighborhoods. So I Googled Williamsburg restaurants.
Okay.
I've put together a list here, and I'm going to say the name, and you guys guess whether this is a band that was on or is on Tooth and Nail Records, or it's a restaurant in Williamsburg.
I'm ready.
Yep, let's do it.
First up, Anchor and Braille.
Band.
Restaurant.
It's a band. 1 for Nate.
Boom.
Secret and Whisper.
I'm going to go band again. Band.
Restaurant.
It's a band. Nate's up.
Ooh.
Yes. Birds of a Feather.
Restaurant.
That's actually a brewery in South Carolina. That's a restaurant.
That's a restaurant in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
All right, I'm on the board.
New York. Watashi wa.
Band.
I'll keep it interesting. Restaurant.
That's a band. That's a Tooth and Nail band.
Okay, so it's 3-2.
3-2. We'll do a couple more. Saint Anselm.
Can you spell Anselm?
Anselm.
Yes.
Gonna go band. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a band.
It's a restaurant.
Fuck.
Okay. Camperdown Elm.
Restaurant.
It's a restaurant, folks.
Oh, 4-2, Nate.
Yeah. I'm going to do one more, even though it's, there's really no way to break the tie. This is probably my favorite one. Tiger Wine.
Band.
It is indeed a Tooth and Nail band. Tiger Wine.
Because as soon as you said that's my favorite one, I knew immediately it was a band. Because when has Aaron Bentley gone and hung out in Williamsburg, Brooklyn?
Actually, I've never heard the band Tiger Wine. I just thought it had wine in it, so I thought maybe you would go for
no
restaurant. Our friend Tharos also gave me a couple of good DC examples. A Rake's Progress.
Brutal.
And
would never eat there.
And Brothers and Sisters, which I thought you guys might think, Christian band.
No, that makes sense.
Anyway, that was about as fun as I anticipated it would be, which is like moderately.
Solid game.
I am nostalgic for restaurants in general and also Brooklyn restaurants now, though.
Okay, well, there you go.
I would like a nice meal. Instead, I will be eating, whatever shit I cook up here.
Main event, Jon Moxley defeated Mark Sterling with the Paradigm Shift. Afterwards, Wardlow attacked Mox. MJF came out with his walker, threw it aside, took off his neck brace, various accessories, attacked. He screams, "You want violence? You got it."
Yeah, the violence was the best part. So yeah, give us less of the rest and more of the violence. Yeah.
All right, if you want to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/everythingelite. Here's the big news. If you haven't hit plus 15 seconds yet, live instant reaction show Saturday night, immediately following All Out, with a special guest joining us. Adam, aka Wiccafe Springs Eternal, will be guesting on the show. So if you are a $5 or more patron, you will be able to hear our live show. We'll post a link to it in our Discord and on the Patreon generally. So do that. We do a lot of other stuff on the Patreon, but I kind of want to hone in and focus on that for this. So come and listen to us do the All Out Instant Reaction live show at patreon.com/everythingelite.
That's good to hear. I feel like we were going on month 2 or 3 of Aaron saying, "Oh, might have a big guest for that," and it, of course, was always the aforementioned Adam. So glad to hear that he's on the pod.
Yeah, we were working on some things with Adam, and none of those worked out. So luckily, Adam is going to be joining us. He's very excited about it. He really enjoyed the TV show last night. So I'm looking forward to maybe some disparate takes on the instant reaction show.
And, a testament to his character that despite disagreeing with us on this matter, he did not freak out on us or send us any death threats.
No, he was very nice about his disagreements. Also, of course, it will be recorded and posted on the Patreon later. So don't, if you're not going to stay up late after the show, you'll still get our instant reaction show. So come hang out with us and with Adam. Okay. We don't know anything about Dynamite next week, except there's going to be a lot of surprises. Let's run down the card real quick. We did a full all-out preview on the Patreon this past week. On Monday, we posted that, so go check that out. But there are a few matches that we didn't know about yet. I'll run down the whole card just in case. Jon Moxley, of course, defending the AEW World Championship against MJF. The Paradigm Shift is banned. Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy in the Mimosa Mayhem match. Which can be won by pinfall, submission, or throwing the opponent into a tank of mimosa, as is usual in pro wrestling matches. The AEW World Tag Team titles are on the line. Kenny Omega and Adam Page defending against FTR. The Women's World title is on the line. Hikaru Shida going against Thunder Rosa. There's a 21-man casino battle royal. The winner will receive a future AEW World Championship match. Here's the people we know so far: Darby Allin, Lance Archer, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, Pentagon, Ray Fenix, The Butcher, The Blade, Eddie Kingston, Sean Spears, Billy of the Gun Club, Austin Gunn of the Gun Club, Jake Hager, Santana, Ortiz, Chuck Taylor, Trent. I didn't count those, but
17.
So there's a few more. D3, Fabu Andre,
Ryzen, and Tony Donati.
There you go.
Tony Donati's championship climb is starting this weekend.
I love it.
Serpentico was out there also. Don't forget Serpentico.
Serpentico is out there. A little offended that we did not see Luther jump in there and help out Serpentico.
Would love to see Luther. There's an 8-man tag, the Dark Order team of Brody Lee, Colt Cabana, Evil Uno, and Stu Grayson going against the team of Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, and the Natural Nightmares, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall, with Allie at ringside. Nate, how do you feel about Allie coming out in the jacket with the bunny on the back of it?
Extremely confusing. Don't like it. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
The tag team match we talked about earlier, the Jurassic Express team of Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus going against the Young Bucks. The Broken Rules match. If Matt Hardy loses, he must leave AEW. Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara. And on the buy-in, the Tooth and Nail match, Britt Baker against Big Swole.
So there's exactly 3 matches on the show that have no stipulation attached to it whatsoever.
Somebody, I can't remember who it was now, but somebody called Tony out on that on the media call. He's like, A lot of stipulations on this card, Tony. He was at the question. It was Sean Radican, actually, now that I think about it. He was like, how did you go about like building the card? And at the time I thought like, this question sucks. But now that I think about it, because then he was like, you got stipulations up and down the card. And now I realize he was saying like, Tony, what the fuck were you thinking of doing like 30 stipulation matches on this show?
Fair point. A legit point. 3 matches out of 9 do not have stipulations. 3.
I'll make a personal appeal to Big Bicep Tony at this time. Put the tag title match on last. It's your biggest title match on the show. Put it in the main event. Slot MJF and Moxley down a slot.
Is this like they've been very serious about putting the AEW World Title on last, but they've also told us, and I think they've proven this one, that they're going to take tag team wrestling very seriously and feature it. So yeah, when are we going to have the tag team title in the main event? This is this is just as big, I think, as FTR Young Bucks. That might be the bigger match to a lot of the crowd.
This is also going to be the match with the most implications going forward, because we're going to see Hangman and Omega lose the belt and break up or something. And that's exactly why the Young Bucks match is on this show also, because they're going to win their match. FTR is going to win this year, and that's going to be your hook for the big story going forward. FTR versus Young Bucks for the belts. So yeah, put that shit on last. Make that your big centerpiece of this show.
And they've had 2 matches on 2 of the pay-per-views before. They've not had the world title on last. The unsanctioned match at Full Gear with Omega and Moxley, and then the Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing. So they have shown that they were willing to put stuff above the world title match in the pay-per-view.
But do you all think there's any chance Thunder Rosa wins this match?
I kind of do.
That is, out of the title matches, after the tag team title match, it's the one I most expect this to happen. I don't think like MJF has like a 5% chance. Thunder Rosa has a puncher's chance.
Yeah, Thunder Rosa at 38% chance.
Yeah, there we go. I was going to say 33. You said 38. So
yeah, kind of because NWA is not doing anything.
Correction, they are starting something on the United Wrestling Network.
Oh, that's right. But
fake.
You wonder why it's to the NWA's advantage to let AEW get their hooks into one of their better talents. By allowing her to go here and work this program. So maybe the answer is, hey, give her a little run with it. That's that's how you do it in Japanese promotions. It's like, oh well, if we're gonna have somebody come in and do a program from another promotion, and they eventually have to lose, because you have to lose before you leave the promotion, the way you sort of protect them is you also give them a title reign while they're there.
Well, it's also the way you make it seem like it has any value. It's like, okay, this person won, now we can use them to put somebody else over. I mean, it's the best way to use it. I give her about as equal of a chance as the percentage that Joe Kennedy III ended up with in his failed attempt.
I want to say that was 44%.
Yeah, that's 44%.
It was. That's a little high. I just really wanted to dunk on Joe Kennedy.
Glad we all had that stat on right at the tip of our tongue.
It's not like we all weren't just quickly reloading that on Tuesday night to make sure that happened.
There's so little to bring joy in this world. And
I want to be clear. I was playing Captain Tsubasa.
I was refreshing.
And I saw it after the fact.
I needed it. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly, it hadn't crossed my mind. And I let Tony Khan work me today, where he's like, well, if Thunder Rosa wins, of course, she will do this. And then he just 5 times, he was like, Thunder Rosa's got a really good chance of winning. I just thought, you trying to tell me something, Big Tone? Are you trying to suggest something here? I think I would feel bad for Hikaru Shida in that, she kind of got this run during the COVID thing, and it's like, oh, fans are back. See ya.
Well, she would definitely win it back, in short order. So
you think they would do a 3-match program where Shida ends up with the title at the end?
That. Yeah, it would by no means be the end of Hikaru Shida's time on top of the division, because, at this point she's kind of the the established star in the division by default. Because no idea where Nyla Rose is. So
Tony also did mention he was, giving the usual excuses for why the women's division is bad. And he said, Yuka Sakazaki is a big wrestler for us. So
I respect that. I respect. I mean, hey, more. You can speak it into existence.
I
Yeah.
mean, she was ranked in the top 5 for 2 months after she did not appear in the company. So she was a ranked wrestler for them.
I just like to believe it means that they intend on having her back when they're able to. So
Hey, also didn't mention this. Excalibur with the shout out to Thunder Rosa being the Tokyo Joshi Pro International Princess Champion. That was fun.
he did. That's right. So, well, that's all I have. You guys have anything else you want to talk about?
No.
Okay.
I'm good, y'all.
All right. Good. You can just follow us on Twitter at Everything AEW when the live show is getting started. I'm sure we'll tweet about it, so you'll want to see that. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. Subscribe to the podcast. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review. Most importantly, go to patreon.com/everythingelite. If you sign up at the $5 tier or above, you will have access to the live instant reaction show with Adam from Wicca Springs Eternal immediately after All Out. So join us.
Yeah, check out the Discord. We have a fan art of Tony Khan as an anime cat.
That's right. We have that. And the 5-star Grand Prix daily audio updates will be returning probably on Monday. They say that's when the shows will start going up. So there's going to be, assuming no more COVID issues, there'll be a lot of 5-star Grand Prix daily audio updates in September. So a good time to subscribe. For Mike, for Nate, I'm Aaron. We'll see you, I hope, on Saturday. If not, next week.